Children, you may make it back to your classroom. Good to have you with us today. James and Brenda got to go somewhere this weekend, so we're thankful for that. Obviously, you're here, so you did not, unless you're visiting with us, and then we're glad you got to go somewhere. So, but we're here nonetheless, and thankful for it. So the only announcement we really got, the ladies. Now I want to emphasize the ladies have a Bible study starting next Sunday night. And that's what time again? 4 o'clock. 4 to 6. So you'll get home in time to watch Sunday Night Football. So I didn't know what kind of response I was going to get with that one. Yeah, yay. Or you'll get home, your men, she'll be home in time to take over for the kids so you can watch Sunday Night Football. However that works at your house, work that one out. So, men, we will have something for you. We haven't shed any details yet because we've not nailed down the date. It's going to be different than what the ladies do, though. It will be different. We still believe in different spaces for men and women. You know, not everything has to be co-ed. Not everything should be co-ed. Okay? So we're going to do some manly stuff here sooner or later. We just got to nail down a date to begin this. So, all right. What? Oh, okay. Ladies, if you have not signed up yet, there's a sign-up sheet and there's a flyer, and the flyer will instruct you. There's a book involved. So, guys, we're not buying any books. See, I tried that once with guys, and we never finished the book. Now, we kept meeting and eating, but we didn't finish the book. So, all right. We killed enough time, and you guys are on the internet. Glad that you're joining us, and thankful that you're here. You've probably wrestled with a question, maybe even recently. What do I want to be when I grow up? Okay, some of you are still wrestling with that. Some may say, well, I want to be married. And I would say, well, you want to be married? Do you want to be a husband, or do you want to be a wife? Because there's a difference. Those two questions are different. You know, do you want to be married? Okay, but do you want to be a husband? Do you want to be a wife? Okay, I want to have a job. Okay, well, you want to have a job. You'd like to get paid, but do you want to work? Okay, who knew? But now that is a legitimate question we've got to ask ourselves in society. There was a radio ad one time that there was a man and his daughter were talking back and forth, and she says, well, I want to get paid. And he says, well, unfortunately, there's no job called getting paid. You got to work. You got to do something. You might say, well, I want to be the boss. Now, well, do you want to be responsible for the results of the company? CEOs are starting to find that out now. I want to have money. I said, well, okay, well, do you want to be a good manager of that money or a good steward of that money? I want to go to heaven. Well, yeah, that's cool. Do you actually want to live like somebody who is going to heaven? I want to be a Christian, but do you want to be a disciple? Now, we spend a lot of time and energy attempting to negotiate with other believers, or ultimately with God, about what truly being a Christian is like. And for everything, you say, well, a Christian is like this. Or there's always somebody go, well, to be a Christian, you don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have. And we negotiate. We try to negotiate all this. But really, when we look at it, we are called Christian, and that was the first time that was used was in the city of Antioch, and it was a derogatory term. It may be a derogatory term now in some people's mouths, but it was a derogatory term, and they were making fun of them because they were acting like little Christs. They were acting Christ-like. And that was a derogatory. You're just trying to be like Jesus. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point. And we got to ask ourselves, how much are we trying to be like Christ? We want the benefits of Christendom. We want the benefits of what Christ has to offer, but are we really desiring to be like Christ? Or are we always on the negotiating end saying, well, to be a follower of Jesus, I don't have to. You know, we could I don't have to ourselves into nothingness. And now granted, there are a lot of people that put a lot of legalistic burdens on top of us that, you know, that God never put onto us, so we got to acknowledge that other end. But you know what? I don't think in our immediate world that's really where the pressure is coming from. I think the pressure is more to be less like Christ and more like the world. And we've all felt the pressure of that at some point, because we're all on a certain level, and everybody's level is going to be different. You know, even in this room, we might find it on a different scale than somebody else. And definitely in different parts of the world, we're simply trying to survive. I mean, you know, there's things we have to navigate on a daily basis, just because if we want to continue to live indoors and eat off a plate, there's certain things that we've got to attend to. But there's more to life than that. Even if you're just in survival mode, there's still a God who created you. There's still a God who is sustaining you. There is still a God that we will answer to. So, what do we want to be when we grow up? Do we want to be disciples or what? Do we want to be followers of Jesus, or do we want to simply reap benefits that Jesus has to offer, and we'll deal with him when we see him? I mean, those are honest questions that we've got to ask ourselves. And I'm not naive. Not everybody's going to leave this room today. Not everybody's going to finish up on the internet today and going, you know what? I genuinely want to be a genuine disciple of Christ. Because you may still come to the conclusion, no, I just want to go to heaven, and I want to do what I want to do while I'm here. That may be your attitude. I'm not too sure it works that way. But good luck. But as in life, you know, there's times where we come to a precipice and we've got to ask ourselves, you know what? Am I going to take that leap of faith, or am I just going to kind of skirt around it? Matthew chapter 4, verse 18. It says, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. And they were in the boat with their father, Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left their boat and their father and followed him. And they became what was known as the disciples. Now, the come and follow me was the standard commission that a rabbi would give to a student who was wanting to learn. It was common to be a disciple of a rabbi. That is, and a disciple is a student who adheres to and travels with a teacher in a teaching learning relationship there, especially used of students of spiritual leaders. So that's what a disciple is, and that included the teacher, the person who instructs others by imparting skills or knowledge, probably, as an occupation. We might look at it in reference to today's society as an apprentice. Somebody who was giving on-the-job training to teach a skill to somebody who was up and coming, or, if you're a new skill. Today, we would still, I would say if you are good with your hands, you like working with your hands, become an apprentice in a trade. Learn a trade. Learn how to fix machines. Learn how to run wiring. Learn how to plumb a building. Learn a trade. Do something with your hands. Tell you what, you may say, well, Mom and Dad, they told me to go to college so I wouldn't have to do that. I tell you what, have you ever called one of those guys out to fix your house? And didn't you just about blow a gasket when you were handed the bill? I think we've outwitted ourselves. But a disciple, an apprentice, somebody who's coming along. And that was an honor when a rabbi finally looked at you and said, come and follow me. That was like, whoa, I've made it. That was kind of like what we would say, I got my admission letter. So that's what Jesus did. They got up, they left their profession, they left their family business, and they went to follow him. And that's where we make the distinction here. Are we just going to be a Christian who kind of consumes what God has to give us, or are we going to be followers? And that is both in our intellectual pursuits and in our physical placement of our bodies in situations. Are we going to be followers of Jesus? Because that's what he called. He called people to follow him, and they did. And there were more. We always refer to the 12, the disciples, but there were a lot of people that were following him at that time. Or during his lifetime. So we need to ask ourselves, when we grow up, as we grow up in the faith, do we want to simply be those who have a label Christian? Because, and sometimes that simply means I'm not Muslim, or I'm not atheist, though practically it might be the same, but, or do we want to be actual, genuine followers of Jesus Christ? Mark chapter 8. Jesus raised the stakes here a little bit with the crowds that were following. He says, then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples. So he called the crowd, and his disciples are there. He says, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. So there were three things there. Deny yourself. That begins just with you. That's just you. That's a sacrifice of some sort of gratification. I deny myself. We do it all the time. If you're on a diet, you deny yourself. You deny yourself dessert. If you are single, you deny yourself the pleasures of the opposite sex. If no matter what your situation is, you have boundaries. If you're married, you deny yourself the opportunity of going outside of your marriage. If you like to travel at very high speeds, there are times where you have to deny yourself the gratification of being pushed back into your seat and regulate the speed in which you drive. You would rather stay home on a Monday than go to work. Sometimes you deny yourself the gratification of staying in bed and you get up and you go to work anyway. There's a place in Christianity where we deny ourselves. We pick up our cross, and again, we got to remind ourselves it wasn't that cute little dangly thing that we put on a chain. In the Roman world, cross meant death. The cross meant shame. The cross meant shame for your family. Good. This wasn't just a ordinary. This was a statement to the rest of the world. Bad person. All right. So when we pick up our cross, and this was before Jesus was crucified, so even in the disciples hearing this were like, what? I mean, you know what? There is going to be somewhat of a burden here. But Jesus says, my yoke is easy and my burden. Didn't say it wasn't a burden. He said, my burden is light. We pick up our cross and we follow him. As an apprentice will follow the master. So that is really the focus of what our Christian growth should look like. Again, we live in a world where we've kind of made Christianity kind of a buffet. Remember when Furs was still open? And you could go and you could pick and you could choose. And there were certain sections that you'd spend a little more time in than others. And, and you chose, well, I'm going to eat my dessert first. And there was no one to say any different because you didn't have to wait on a server. You just got up and got it yourself, and you got as much as you wanted. And if you decided to go back and get more, and if you decided you didn't even like what you took to begin with, you could just leave it there on your table, and someone would come and take it away, and you didn't have to worry about it. You didn't even have to show embarrassment, and there was no one telling you, no, you have to finish that first, unless you were with your parents. And but you actually got to go and gorge yourself on what you chose and ignore the rest. And we've kind of come to a place in our society where that's how we view our walk with Christ. We do certain things. Maybe we do certain things in order to make up for other things that we know we shouldn't be doing. We kind of still trying to negotiate. Okay, God, I'm not willing to give this up, so I'll do this instead. That's not what he's called us to. He's called us to deny ourselves, to pick up our cross, and to follow him. Verse 35, the stakes get even higher. It says, whoever wants to save their life will lose it. I mean, if you've got a plan and you want your life to look that certain way, there's a good chance you're gonna go off on your own. You're gonna do your own thing, apart from God. But whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. For what good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels. All right. I'll have to admit, that verse right there has always kind of stuck in the back of my head. Because in the circles in which I grew up, in which I was trained in the ministry, that was used to mean if you did not go out every day, wherever you went, and boldly confronted people with the gospel, no matter where you were at, you were ashamed of Christ, and he was going to be ashamed of you. You didn't lead anybody to Christ today? You didn't witness to anybody today? Oh, how shameful. And that was kind of the attitude that was heaped upon us within the movement that we came from. But, sometimes, so what we're doing is, if those of us who are a little bit more reticent around strangers, that always felt like just the ultimate condemnation. Man, I'm destined to be shameful in Christ's eyes, because I don't aggressively talk to anybody. Anywhere. I've often said, if I had to go out and sell something for us to eat, we'd starve. And that always weighed in. But look at this. Ashamed is to experience a painful feeling or sense of loss or status because of some particular event or activity. Ashamed meant I would be afraid to go home and say, you know what? I can't, Mom and Dad, I can't live this way anymore. I've decided to follow Jesus. Or, you know what? Yes, you're asking me about, what I believe. I'm a Christian. I do believe. And they ask you at the border, what are you? Your religious status. Well, I am a Christian. That I don't feel a loss. I don't feel ashamed for being a Christian. See, we made it more into if you're not out selling Jesus to everybody, then you're ashamed of him. No, when we have normal conversation, we find, you know what, I'm a Christian. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not going to tell you any different. I follow Jesus, yes. I want to live for him. Yes, I'm not ashamed of that. Not, you don't walk into a mosque and start preaching Jesus. Now, some people would. I don't. You know what? I don't necessarily recommend the guerrilla attack because I'm a Christian. But you know what? You are standing in front of a mosque and someone walks up to you and says, do you believe in Jesus or Allah? You simply say, I believe in Jesus. That's not being ashamed. That, there's that boldness that comes with that. Now, my Christianity doesn't require that I go in and I verbally bomb everybody that I meet. But when the question comes up, well, yes, I'm a follower of Jesus. Or they say, well, who are you voting for? Well, we might take a while to get to Jesus, but we're going to say, well, person A can't vote for person B because, as a follower of Christ, I cannot adhere to that. And, of course, they're going to say, well, that person A, you can't follow Jesus. Well, what do you know about Jesus? Or tell me what you know about Jesus. Maybe that would be a better response. Tell me what you know about Jesus. Okay, so there's that level. We want to be bold and we want to be decisive. We don't necessarily have to blow everybody up because we believe in Jesus. Capable of it maybe, but not on mission to do that. Luke chapter 14, verse 25. The large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he says, if anyone comes to me and does not, okay, this is going to blow you up here, hate mother and father, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. That has been a sticking point for a lot of people, and I've even heard enemies of Christianity use that verse about Jesus teaching hate. And of course, we don't even know what hate means nowadays. Hate means disagree with nowadays. But in Bible language, and we could look back even in the Old Testament, there was a choice to be made. I'm going to choose this person. I'm going to choose this person. And sometimes it was said that the person that was chosen was loved. The person who was not chosen was hated. And it wasn't that there was this great anger and animosity and ill will towards. It's, I chose one over the other. One had to be accepted. One was ultimately rejected. And when it comes down to it, push comes to shove. If anyone comes to me and does not hate or not choose their mother and father, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such person cannot be my disciple. So the ultimate is when push comes to shove, I choose Jesus. No matter what the familial relationship is. Now, that doesn't mean I choose ministry over my family. It does not mean that I choose time at church over important events with my family. It means morally, my family is not going to push me into an immoral position. I choose to honor and follow God. I choose to have my affections towards God. And my family is not going to get between my affection and my devotion to God. Sometimes you have to choose. Do I hang out with my bros at church? Do I go to the ladies' Bible study? Or do I attend to an emergency with my family? My child needs me right now. My wife needs me right now. My husband needs me right now. So I choose to avoid an event in order to do that. But it does not negate my relationship with Christ. Now, that might cause a little fog in your minds. You're going, well, wait a minute. How do you love God and not go to the church all the time? Well, you love God and you take care of your responsibilities and you go to church as a regular basis and you make that your pattern in life. And you understand sometimes emergencies come up. You can't go to everything all the time. You can love God all the time, though. You can be moral all the time. You can obey His moral teaching all the time. You can be honest all the time. You can be loving all the time. But you can't always place your body in certain events all the time. Now, if you're never making space, that's another story. Okay? And we can come up with all kinds of complications. But what if? We can begin the big but list. But what if? Okay, we can wrestle through all that. But what we understand is, look, for some of you, you were taught, todas la familia. And you were taught to worship an idol. You were taught to worship an idol. And your wife or your husband should not be an idol. Your kids should not be an idol. Your job should not be an idol. Your own contentment and your own self-satisfaction. Okay, all right, woo, I'm going to say it. Should not be an idol. We serve the living God, and that's who our focus should be on. How we play that out sometimes comes with some complications. And that's where we work in community to hammer those things out. And that's where grace comes in. But our devotion, our internal devotion, our soul devotion should be on Jesus and Him only. Whoever, and again he says, whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. And again, as I said earlier, I said not everybody's going to walk out of here totally convinced. And Jesus knew that too. He says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying that person began a building and wasn't able to finish. Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he's able with 10,000 men to oppose the one coming against him, or with 20,000? If he's not able, he will send a delegation while he is still a long way off and will ask for terms of peace. Okay, so he says, look, if you're going to take on something, if you're going to consider something, you got to consider the cost here. There's a cost. In the same way, those who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciple. Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? If it is fit neither for the soil nor for the manure pile, it is thrown out. Whoever has ears to hear, let them hear. Meaning not everybody's going to get it. But the ones who get it, you understand there is a cost involved here. You know, I think life in general is a stewardship. And one of the days I'm actually gonna do a series on this. But your body, the body you've been given, is a stewardship. You have been given a body created by God. And when we say stewardship, that means you are the manager of it. It's His property. It's His property, and you manage it. Okay, it's like borrowing someone's car. It's their car. You need to bring it back in good shape. Okay? Your body is a stewardship. Your health is a stewardship. Your finances are a stewardship. Your family is a stewardship. Your marriage and all aspects of it is a stewardship. You have been granted this by God. And, and you may have even gone out of His will and got some of this. But still, it has been given to you by God. You are to manage it well. And there's a cost. That means I don't get to treat it like I would like to treat it. You borrow someone's car, you know what? If it's a nice car, especially, you probably don't want to take it, off-roading. Even if it's made for off-roading and it's a nice vehicle, you probably should not do that. That's just good stewardship. You manage it well. So, with that being said, maybe some questions that we need to ask ourselves this. What do we want to be when we grow up? Do we want to be disciples? You're going to have to ask this. Who do you want to identify with? What group of people are you most interested in giving or getting their acceptance? Okay? I've said it before. High school never ends. You knew in high school what table was what table. The jocks sat over here. The cheerleaders sat fairly close, but not right close. Over there, same area. The nerds sat over here. The AV club sits over here. You knew who sat at what table. You had a sense in yourself what table you fit in at. And as an adult, you need to ask yourself, what table do I want to sit at? Whose acceptance am I trying to fit in? Or whose acceptance am I trying to earn? Who am I trying to fit in with? And you may have to decide, because some of those tables, you know what? You might be able to be a good Christian at that table. And then again, you might not be able to be a good Christian at that table. And you need to decide, who am I trying to fit in with? Who is it you want to please? I mean, at the end of the day, who is it you wanting to please? If you can say at the end of the day, you know what, when it all comes down to it, I don't care who was mad at me. I don't care, who comes back. I don't care who calls me again. I want to know that I've pleased God. Not everybody's to that place where they want to say that. And here's a big one, and this is one it's probably going to be the easier one, but then again, it may not. Who do you listen to? Who are you influenced by? I mean, who do you spend? I grew up in a generation where we had the TV on just for noise. And some of you may still have that going on in your household. Seriously, who are you listening to? I was amazed. I went back to do a funeral here a couple of weeks ago to my hometown. The local. It's funny. It's one of those places where the local news personalities haven't changed much in all the years that I've been around or gone. But the theme of the morning talk show, and the commercials. It's amazing how much the commercials and then the theme of just the conversation, the banter that goes on with the host there is so directed towards pharmaceuticals. We haven't had TV news on at our house in years now. We select who we listen to and who we seek out to get a filter on current events and such. In that, I'm even then you got to be careful, because you got to understand where they coming from. They could be a loose nut too. But the whole thing that I just gathered, I guess, man, everything they say is leading you back to a pharmaceutical. All the commercials, even the talk on the set. And it's like, who are you listening to? So, education-wise, you go to a campus, you go to a college campus now, and you got to understand, you go to a college campus right now, you will be influenced by Marxism. You got to hold on to that. Understand that. That is the way it is. There's a lot of things that are wrapped up emotionally right now in our culture that, quite frankly, are just Marxist revolutionary thoughts, where you have to give up your rights and there'll be a ruling class over you. Who are you listening to? Who's influencing you? If you think back to your junior high years. How many of you developed an idea of what a a relationship with a girlfriend, a boyfriend was supposed to be like based on a song you heard. Or go a little farther, a movie that you watched. I'll tell you what, there's a big difference in the generation that grew up watching Happy Days versus the generation that grew up watching Friends. Big difference. Who are you listening to? If anyone wants to be my disciple, they must deny themselves, pick up their cross, and follow me. Let's finish this out. 1 John chapter 2, verses 3 through 6. Now there's a bigger context here, but I wanted to get to the nuts and bolts here. He says, we know that we have come to know him if we keep his commands. And Jesus even told his disciples, if you love me, you'll keep my commands. Okay. Whoever says, I know him, but does not do what he commands is a liar. And the truth is not in that person. But anyone who obeys his word, but if anyone obeys his word, love for God is truly made complete in them. And this is how we know that we're in him. Whoever claims to live in him must live as Jesus did. So there's our following. There's our apprenticeship. We find out what Jesus did. We live and we follow him. And when we follow him, that means we imitate him. That means we would be, somebody could say, well, you're just trying to act like Jesus. Well, yes, that is the point. Thank you. Thank you for noticing. And but also notice this. They're also going to notice when you fail to. No apprentice becomes a master overnight. And we're not going to master this. We may become journeymen, but we're not going to become masters this side of heaven. Our sin nature is always going to be beating us down. We're always going to be messing up. We're always going to be tripping up. But the thing is this, we get back up and we move forward. I think the scary part is when we have failed so many times that we try to rewrite God's word in order to fit our failure and make it okay. It's kind of like shooting an arrow into the side of a barn, then painting the bullseye on the barn. Okay, and that's kind of what we do. But the whole point is this. He says, look, when we grow up, what do we want to be? Do we want to be disciples? Do we want to be Christian flavored? Or do we want to be Christian? Do we want to be identified with Christ, or do we want to be like Christ? Do we want his benefits? Or do we want to be like him? And that lots of times is something that we just got to decide in that very quiet moment, maybe right before we go to sleep, where we make the decision and we think it through and we say, I want to be a real Christ follower. And then we have to get up and start living that way. You say, well, that's tough. Yeah. Some days tougher than others. That's why we need a community around us that is searching for the same thing. And there's going to be a community of people who are on a different level, as you would, it's a bad word, different part of the journey. And sometimes that's going to be frustrating. Sometimes in our weakest moment, we're going to look towards them to find excuse not to do the right thing. Messy part of community. But it all comes back to our commitment. Our commitment. Are we going to be like Christ? Are we going to strive to be like Christ? Are we going to put forth the effort? Do we just want a job or do we want to work? Let's do it. Let's pray. Lord, I pray today as you have given us your word, you have given us grace, you've given us opportunity after opportunity, Lord, to meet with you, to pray to you and to converse with you. You've given us your word to guide us, direct us. I pray, Lord, that you would bring us to that place where we would make the decision whether or not we want to be true disciples of you or not. And we understand that you've called us to a very high standard. And Lord, it's not that we can earn any part of our salvation, but Lord, once we have been granted it, we understand, Lord, that you've called us to live differently because we are saved. So Lord, I pray that deep down that we will be committed to following you. And when we stumble, we'll get back up. When we see others stumble, we'll help them back up. And Lord, I pray, God, as we go into the years that are ahead that leave so much question for what in the world is going on, I pray that there'd be one thing that is solid, and that's our commitment to you. Let us be forever transformed. Prayer team is up here if you need someone to pray with you, to encourage you, to give you some advice or some hope. That's what we're here for. So if you've got a need that you would like someone to just walk with you with for this short amount of time, they're here available to you. So Lord, thank you. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for saving us.